Debt, fear, relationships, the children, your health, work. When you want to give up and you need courage to continue, take heart and stay tuned as R.J. Jackson writes her signature message of hope on your heart. You don't have to live where you're dying, and you don't have to die where you're living. Like every show of Conversations on Courage, you'll be informed, inspired, and encouraged to find the courage you need to succeed at home, work, and in your business. Get your pen and paper. You'll want to take notes. And now, your host, R.J. Jackson, the Courage Giver.
Hello, beautiful. I'm your friend, R.J. Jackson, your master encourager, accountability coach, speaker for your next event, and your down-to-earth, I'm listening, tell it like it is, I love you, girl, friend. Yep, that's me. Welcome to the conversation. This is a show for women who dare to be bold and courageous, women who live life unapologetically. This is a show where you can find the courage you need in order to succeed. This is episode 1 of Conversations on Courage. It's the one you'll want to listen to over and over again. It's the one you'll share with your friends. Matter of fact, go ahead. Why don't you do that right now? Why don't you show your sister friend that you care about her and you want her to succeed? Go ahead and share the show by hitting the share button right now. After all, sharing is caring. On today's show, we promise to fill your cup with courage one sip at a time. We're going to provide you with success strategies, inspiration, and purposeful conversation. What else are we going to do while we're together? Well, we're going to respond to your questions. You know, the ones you had the courage to ask out loud on our Facebook group. Girl, I'm working on it too. Oh, and by the way, if you're new and you're not a part of our group, we invite you to join us today on Facebook, where you will find a safe place to be you, authentically you, and meaningful relationships with women just like you. We'll also share in your story, and we will provide you with a life-giving experience. And, of course, before we end, we'll talk to our featured guest. This month is set aside to raise awareness for domestic violence as well as breast cancer. Now, just before we bring our guests to the table, I would love to share with you and make you aware of some very important facts about domestic violence. Did you know that every 9 seconds a woman is involved in a domestic violence dispute? 85% of domestic violence victims are women. 1/4 women nationwide will experience domestic violence between the age of 20 and 24. Domestic violence not only affects women, but it affects our children. And boys who witness domestic violence are 2 times more likely to become abusers. Here's an alarming fact. Domestic violence is the leading cause of injury to women. Now, you can combine car accidents, muggings, and even rape, and the numbers still do not match the numbers for domestic violence. Those are alarming facts, especially since love shouldn't hurt. We are going to talk about real love and real men. Our guest today is relationship expert Dr. Gerald T. Hightower. He's an author, speaker, and CEO of Real Love Nation. Ladies, I truly invite you to be open to receiving the words of wisdom, the encouragement, the information that's going to cause transformation from Dr. G. I promise you today's conversation is going to be epic. This is the time. This is the time that you must commit to writing those notes down on your heart so that you can take action immediately, because he's going to give you the tools to do so. Dr. G, welcome to the table.
Thank you so much, dear sister RJ. It is wonderful to be here sitting at the table with you having coffee chat.
That's right. You got your cup of coffee. I got my cup of courage. All right. Awesome. So together we are going to give information that is guaranteed to cause transformation in someone's life as we continue to make people aware, not that they don't already know, but that we make them aware that God hasn't forgotten about them during this season of Domestic Violence Awareness Month, as well as Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And it's a new season for you as well. You have a new book out, Capturing His Heart. Oh, my gosh. Let's just go right there. Tell us about Capturing His Heart.
Well, thank you, my dear sister RJ. Capturing His Heart is a book that has really evolved, and the subtitle of it is Transparent Thoughts from Men on Dating, Commitment, Marriage, and Sex. And it's really a book that has evolved over the last 5 years. Interestingly enough, prior till now, the book had an entirely different title, and I was writing over the last 5 years or so with an entirely different focus. But just over these last few months, as I've just been really spending time praying and fasting and asking God to just allow me to speak, use me to speak what you want to say, God, to your people. And so I always had that thought in mind, but over the last couple of months, as the book now has evolved into Capturing His Heart, it was really about, the book has become a book to women and a guideline for men, going the message to women, allowing women to see the secrets that a lot of us men carry. One of the most enlightening things that I really enjoy sharing, RJ, with all of my dear single sisters is that real men, godly men, of course, are not afraid of commitment. They're not afraid of marriage. There are some things we are fearful of, but marriage in and of itself are not those things. And so I talk about that in the book, some of the things that men fear, some of the things that men struggle with as it relates to commitment, dating, marriage, and sex. And, of course, these are my own experiences along with dozens of men that I've had the opportunity to counsel with and to speak with over the last few years.
I love that balance. Like you're speaking to the women what they need to know and to the men what they need to know as well for healthy relationships. I absolutely love that. Oh, and Capturing His Heart? Oh, yes, his heart. Wait, one more comment. I just got to say it because it just like put the biggest smile on my face when you said, look, real men, godly men are not afraid of commitment, because how can they be when God wired them for commitment? How can they be? So that in itself, Dr. G, is a sign for us as women about real love. You talk about signs. not only in your book, but as a relationship expert, you've been quoted saying abuse of any kind is a sign that real love is absent. You must become absent too. Talk to us about that.
Well, RJ, abuse, of course, is not relegated to physical abuse, but abuse can also be verbal abuse. Abuse can also be being emotionally absent, whereas you're invested in a relationship or even in a marriage, and then the person goes MIA on you. All of a sudden, they've, come up in the witness protection program. You can't find them. Where did they go? And so, if a person is abusive, whether it's emotionally absent, where you're not making yourself available, you shut down, or you're verbally abusive, or one becomes physically abusive. And that is something that a lot of men don't talk about, because it's almost a shameful thing to consider that a woman would be physically abusive to a man, right? But it does happen. And you won't see police reports on it, men saying, hey, my wife is over here beating me. But it does happen. And over 16 years of pastoral counseling experience, RJ, I can tell you that it happens more often than people would ever fathom. I've even had to go and get a couple, help get a woman out of jail who was physically beating her husband. So, it does happen. And so if at any time, whether it's the husband or the woman, it's the male significant other or the female significant other, if abuse, it's constantly happening, then you've got to make yourself absent, because wherever abuse is happening, there's an absence of love. And wherever there's an absence of love, then you've got to make yourself absent too. Don't stick around. Don't think that your love and your good deeds for that person is going to make them change. A man will never change, RJ, nor will a woman ever change until they decide to change. But no amount of love, gifts, acts of service, beautiful words of affirmation, roses, candy, love making, nothing that you can give that person, the abuser, nothing is ever going to make them change until they decide to make a change for themselves.
You're listening to Conversations on Courage with your host, RJ Jackson, the Courage Giver. Quick, call your friends and invite them to listen in.
I definitely understand that. As a domestic violence advocate, I understand that abuse is about control. And yes, none of those things work. And yes, men are victims as well. As we talk about domestic violence and we want people to be safe, most people don't understand victims, and they say things like, well, why don't you just leave? Well, what you stay there for? They don't understand the dynamics of domestic violence. So to someone who's listening right now, I want to speak to the audience in two different ways, if you will, please. For one, the person who doesn't understand domestic violence, they've never been a victim themselves, and they're wondering why people don't leave. Can you speak to that? And also to the person who needs to leave, wants to leave, is fearful of leaving, have nowhere to go. Can you just encourage their heart as well?
Yes, absolutely. I want to introduce a thought that is not often spoke about, preached on, nor taught in our churches throughout Christendom, RJ, and that is the necessity of healthy self-love. Jesus talks about the importance of loving ourselves. Now, of course, as Jesus expresses it, he talks about it from the perspective, he gives us two commandments, and the first commandment, of course, is love the Lord your God with all of your heart, soul, mind, and strength. And the second commandment is like unto the first, love your neighbor as you love yourself. So the principle is so powerful and simple that in order to love my neighbor, and especially talking about entering into a romantic love relationship, there's no way I can do that until I first love myself. Because if I learn to first love myself, then I'll be able to love you, RJ. I'll be able to love you as my sister. I'll be able to love the woman that I pursue as a wife. I'll be able to love with a balanced, healthy mindset when I first love myself. And so for the persons who are right now in abusive relationships, and those of you who are in relationships right now, you're dating someone or exclusively courting someone, and you've seen some signs, but you're not quite sure, and you've chosen to kind of give him a pass on that, give her a pass on that. Listen, don't keep bypassing or ignoring the warning signs, because when you see that anger, that wrath, that rage come out, that's God giving you a warning sign. And I'm encouraging you, ma'am. I'm encouraging you, sir. Love yourself enough to remove yourself from that relationship. If you remain in that relationship, that is not some act of nobility. That is not you being used by God to give them love. No, that is you choosing to ignore what God is showing you, what God is trying to reveal to you, because God does not want you, nor has he assigned you to go and be involved in a relationship that is abusive. If you are in a relationship, you've got to love yourself enough to remove yourself from that relationship, especially if you have children, because now it's not just your life that you're putting in jeopardy. You're endangering the lives or the life of your child. And you owe it to God, you owe it to yourself, and you owe it to your children to do better.
What powerful words of encouragement. And let me just put a comma there and remind you, if you are listening and you find yourself in a situation that, you're not sure, you have given it a pass, or perhaps you see exactly what's going on. It is not your fault. And you need to know that. It's not your fault. And as Dr. G said earlier, you can't do anything to change it except find safety for yourself and your family. So, Dr. G, the title of your book, I just want to speak to that for a second, because I don't want folks to get it twisted. It's entitled Capturing His Heart.
Yes.
And as we talk seriously about domestic violence awareness, sometimes people feel, well, it is my fault, and if I just do this, and he didn't mean it, or she didn't mean it, and if I just do that or this, then it'll change. So when you really talk about capturing his heart, I know you're not talking about being the blame for being a victim. So give us one example of capturing his heart.
Great question, RJ. Well, capturing his heart, it's really about a woman understanding that our hearts as men is something that we are, very reluctant to share. It's not something that we do readily because, of course, as men, we're wired differently from women. Women are more so wired emotionally, where we are more so wired intellectually, logically. So we are making logical decisions, and sharing our heart is not something that we do readily. However, if you are understanding as a woman that you've got to do more than just attract a man's attention, then you'll have the ability to really begin to hear when a man shares his heart. Because one of the things about us men, Miss RJ, we love to talk about ourselves. We love to talk about what we're doing, what we've done, especially, men who had a great deal of accomplishment in their earlier years. So there's this residual heroism where they want to, back in the day, I was always the captain of the team, and, I scored 500 points. And, matter of fact, my record is still there at the school right now. If you go back to the school, you'll see my record's still up there, so, there's that whole residual heroism thing, that many of us men have. And that's nothing more than our desire, our need to want to not just impress you, but have a good impact on you so you will have a level of appreciation and respect for us, because one of the things that men fear, and this is true for most all of us men, is that we don't ever want to become irrelevant. And so a wise, virtuous woman understands, a strong woman, Miss RJ, she understands that any woman can attract a man's attention, but only a strong woman knows how to capture his heart. And how a woman captures a man's heart is understanding a little bit about his makeup, but also understanding, and this is probably even more important, understanding what his vision is, what his passion is, what is the blueprint that God has for his life. Every woman who is interested in a man, especially if she's in a relationship with him and prayerfully moving that relationship toward marriage, you better understand, not just about what he's done, but what's more important is about where he's going, and does he have an understanding of the blueprint for his life, because that is where she understands whether or not she's equipped to be this man's helpmeet. She'll be able to understand for herself, does she have the capacity to speak life into him, to encourage him and build him up? Because there is a woman's superpower, RJ. When she has the ability to capture his heart, listen, we as men will give you everything. There's a lot of women who think they can win a man by giving him sex, doing good deeds for him administratively, or, if they're in ministry, give big checks or bring a whole bunch of people. All of those things are cool, but we have a lot of people doing that. What makes a woman stand head and shoulders above all the others is that, number one, she maintains a holy standard for her own life. So she loves herself and she loves her God, and she doesn't lower that standard, doesn't compromise. Number two, that she is a woman who is very resourceful. And number three, that she's able, the man that she's connected to, she's able to speak life into him, and she's able to capture his heart by the things that she is able to say and do for him. And I promise you, RJ, that's the woman that inspires a man to say, hey, I got to make her my wife.
Well, all right now. Listen, this is money you can take to the bank, sister, and I'm going to co-sign on that check to let you know it's good. It's good. The bank called Dr. G and said, your check right now is good, brother. Ching, ching. Ladies,
amen.
Take it to the bank. And I want to just co-sign and say from a woman's point of view, something that I know for sure based on what Dr. G just shared, men are wired for respect. And so my sisters, we have got to start respecting our men. We have got to start respecting our men. That's a whole nother segment. We're going to ask you to show up for that one, because I'm telling you, we are missing the mark on that one. We sisters. We soul sisters. We got this. I don't need no help. Girl, please. Wait. How they say, bye, Felicia? Yes, you do. Okay? Yes, you do. So the relationship expert himself is telling us what we as women need to do. We need to do more than co-sign. We need to do our best to capture his heart and love him for who God created him to be, not change him. Oh, wait, and let me throw this in if I can, Dr. G. You can speak to it. Capture his heart, not chase his heart, right? Like, is there a difference?
There is a difference.
What's the difference?
Well, the woman is the one to be pursued, not to ever do the pursuing. And so, therefore, again, going back to healthy self-love, a woman has got to have a great deal of understanding of who she is and whose she is, belonging to God, and that you don't belong to that man until he makes you a part of his life. And it states his intentions, and that's something that I talk about in my book as well, Capturing His Heart, RJ, that godly men are intentional. No godly man is going to keep a woman hanging on for a year, 2 years, and we still trying to figure this thing out. No. Tricks are for kids, all right? Godly men who are mature, they state their intentions up front. And, you know, going all the way back in the day, RJ, when I was 16 years old, and wanted to date my high school sweetheart, before I even took her out to the roller skating ring, I had to sit down with her mom and her dad, and their question was, what are your intentions concerning my daughter? So men know what we want, and so therefore godly men know how to state their intentions. And so, ladies, you don't have to ever worry about whether or not this man is truly interested in you and you are a part of his life plan, because 6 months to a year after you've established a good foundation, he should be letting you know where you stand in his life. And if he hasn't told you after 6 months to a year, then guess what? He has no real intentions of making you his wife. And you got to sit down and have a face-to-face conversation, and then you have to make some decisions for yourself, because godly men are intentional. When a woman captures a man's heart, she captures his heart based on the woman that she is on the inside. The woman is a man's favorite factor. So she doesn't have to do anything to try to chase his heart. All she's got to do is be who she is in God and know how to speak life into him, and she'll capture his heart.
It sounds like to me that somebody needs to take off some tennis shoes and hang them up.
You've been running, and you know you're tired, and you're running in vain, because men are wired to be the ones who pursue and chase, not us as women. That's why the Bible says a man that findeth, because he's chasing and looking for. So, sister girl, get them shoes off, put your feet up, position yourself, and wait on them. I'm just saying what Dr. G is saying. I'm translating in case you missed it. That's all I'm saying. Dr. Gerald Hightower, relationship expert. This has been too good to just leave on the table. We want more. How can we connect with you? How can we purchase your book from you? Where can we find you? Because this is good stuff that brings life, and that more abundantly, which is what God has for us.
Thank you so much, RJ. Well, you can purchase my book by simply going to capturinghisheart.com. That's capturinghisheart.com. And you're going to love the book. It's life-changing. And you can certainly go to my website. My website is reallovenation.org. That's reallovenation.org. I'm the CEO of Real Love Nation, which is a dating, relationships, premarital consulting, and divorce recovery firm. We also help men and women who have gone through or are yet going through a divorce. And I have a team of awesome individuals who have over 30 years of counseling and coaching experience. So you can go to our website, have a bunch of great classes as well as online counseling or one-on-one coaching sessions as well. RJ, thank you so much. I appreciate you having me on.
Wait. Where y'all going? Stop running over to his website. He's still here. Wait a minute.
Dr. Hightower, leave us. Because they leaving us running over to your website. Leave us with some words of encouragement to encourage our heart. Words of courage.
Yes, ma'am. Well, the words of courage today are just for both my men and the women listeners. For my men, I'm encouraging you today. Understand this, men. We are only at our best when we have a godly woman by our side. Yes, brother, I know. You're sitting there right now and you're thinking, hey, Dr. G, I've accomplished a lot on my own. I didn't really need a wife to get where I am. But guess what? The maximization of your potential and the fullness of the functioning of your purpose only happens when you have a godly wife by your side. God created the earth and the heavens in 6 days, and on the seventh day he rested, and everything that God created, he said, that's good. But when he looked at the man who was alone in the garden, this is the only thing where he said, that ain't good. It's not good that man should be alone. So my brothers, I'm encouraging you. If you have a good, godly woman in your life, listen, move forward prayerfully and make her your wife, because you're going to exponentially increase with favor when you make that woman your wife. Not your girlfriend, not you liked it, but you put a ring on it, but you solidify the covenant of marriage. And my sisters, my simple word of encouragement to you is wait for your destiny mate. Don't lower your standard. Don't dumb it down. Don't compromise. The right man is going to come into your life, and he'll be well equipped to be your covering, to love you and cherish you the way you deserve to be treated.
Dr. G, Dr. Gerald T. Hightower. Oh, my gosh. You have totally blessed us today. You reminded us. Proverbs 4:23 says, above all, guard your heart. And today we have more information that will cause transformation. We have inspiration that will cause transformation, and we are ready to take action. Ladies, my beautiful sister, and yes, you are beautiful. It's time. It's time, girl, to guard your heart. Knowing when to walk away, as Dr. Hightower talked about, well, that's wisdom. Being able to walk away, well, that's courage. And walking away with your head held high, that's dignity. And you deserve to do that. October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. If you or someone you know need help, get help. If you're in immediate danger, call 911. For anonymous, confidential help, 24/7. Call the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-7233. Again, that number is 1-800-799-7233. If you're being abused by your partner, know there's nothing you have done, nothing you are doing to cause the abuse. It is solely the choice of the abuser to abuse. It seems impossible to escape your abuser, change your circumstances, or even find help sometimes, but it is possible. You need to know your abuser best. So think carefully through your situation and your circumstances and do what is best to keep you safe. God hasn't forgotten about you, and there are people who want to walk with you. We invite you, if you just need someone to speak to, someone to pray for you, to please reach out and allow us to touch your heart and journey with you. It's hard to see our sisters hurt, because when our sisters hurt, we hurt. But we are here to help. So we invite you to stay connected. And don't forget, it's time to take action. I'm your host, RJ Jackson, the Courage Giver. I'd be delighted to be invited by you to speak to your group, church, school, organization, and fill your cup with courage. Contact me today for details on having me come your way.
Thank you for joining us for Conversations on Courage. Now that you've been inspired, informed, and encouraged, it's time for you to take action. So head on over to thecouragegiver.com. That's thecouragegiver.com and connect with RJ for a personal conversation on courage. She's waiting to help you take the risk you need to succeed.